Okay, boys and girls. Sunday after church, got a little time to kill. I thought I'd make another video about chunk guns. We went over some of this in previous videos, but this time we're getting a little more specific on what we're doing. This is something I've done so that I can practice at home when I can't get to the range, especially with winter coming on. You hear the experts talk about you have to crawl into the gun the same way every time. You crawl into the gun. You do not bring the gun to you. And I found that out the hard way at a shoot once when I got up, pulled the gun back, and unbeknownst to me, the gun was just barely hanging on the chunk, and when it went off, it actually fell off the chunk. That will make a bad day. So here's what I came up with. I've got extra chunks. It seems like when you've been around this game, you'll have extra everything. But here's what I done. I had a chunk that I don't use. I actually made a fixture on top so that my camp bar fits down in that fixture on the chunk so that it can't be moved forward or backwards. That allows the gun not to move, and it allows me to learn to crawl into the gun. Now, before some so-called expert brings it up, I know that you are not allowed to use something like this at a chunk shoot. There can be no restriction to the movement forward and backwards, so keep that to yourself. So what I do then, I've got that sitting in there, and you'll notice the chunk is pinned down. Nothing can move. I have my mat. You'll notice on the mat there's a line drawn. That's to line the gun up, because you don't come straight into the gun. You set most at an angle, at least I do. I've got a spot marked there for the toe of the butt to sit on. And then you'll see spots here I've marked for my elbows once I'm on the mat. Now the idea, of course, is you practice crawling into the gun without moving the gun. Now when you get to shoot, you're not going to have the option of the stops out there. But at least this gives you something at home you can practice with when the snow's flying or you just can't get to the range. You can set this up. You could do the same thing on the chunk with probably some bar clamps, or not bar clamps, but C-clamps and some strips of wood to fit your chunk and your gun so you can take it back off. You don't need a chunk dedicated to it. But this allows you to learn to crawl into the gun, which is extremely important. When you're at the shoot, you got your chunk set up, your mat set up. When you set that gun down on the chunk, and that toe plate is in your spot that you've marked on the mat, that gun should be pointing right at your target out there at 60 yards. So you have very little movement you have to do once you get into the gun. So you can just make a deal up like this, practice with it when you can't get to the range, and I think in the end it'll make you a better shooter, because dry firing and practicing just putting the target out there at 60 yards when you can't shoot. I can't shoot here in town, obviously, but I can put a target up out there at 60 yards, and I can just crawl behind the gun and practice lining my sights and everything up. Anytime you do any of that, it's good practice. It'll help you down the road. Okay, that'll be it for today. Appreciate you stopping by.